Gatorsports.com.
All right, welcome to our latest Hoopscast. Kevin Brockway and Pat Dooley, the Gainesville Sun. And Kevin, Florida finally got their first SEC win. We're not used to them having to wait until 3 games in, but to me, LSU was a perfect team for the Gators to play. They matched up well with them. It was a home game. LSU's got one guy that can score. And I'm not surprised they won, but they had to win it.
Yeah, a little bit of a confidence booster for them in terms of, putting together a pretty good defensive effort after the first 2 games, being able to play some man-to-man defense and match up against a team. And, Tasman Mitchell got his points, but they got Storm Warren in early foul trouble, the 2 fouls, and really, won by 14 and really could have won by more if they would have hit some free throws. They were 11 to 21 from the line, but, maybe get that bad one out of the way, free throw shooting-wise, and save some of those for a game that's going to be a little bit tighter.
Well, as I've said all along, they're going to do something bad in every game. In this game, it was free throw shooting, and they did everything else pretty well. So Florida gets the win there, and now they go on, with a chance to really get a little momentum going, Kevin, because they've got at Arkansas. Now, the one thing about at Arkansas is a different team at home than they're on the road. They've got Courtney Fortson back, and he's been back a little while, so he's gotten his legs underneath him. That's going to be a tough game for them to win. I mean, everybody's looking at that, they'll beat Arkansas, but I think it's going to be a very difficult game for them to win.
I totally agree because, like you said before, with Fortson coming back, and they've also got a freshman, Marshawn Powell, who's a very good dynamic scorer. He's averaging 15.9 per game, and he adds that kind of slasher element to the team that they didn't have last year. But they do play 3 guards. But with Powell up front, Michael Washington's a very good center. Yeah, it's not going to be easy. 9 o'clock nationally televised game. I'm sure the fans are going to be really into it at Bud Walton Arena. That's always a great atmosphere for basketball. And, this will be kind of a test of Florida, how they handle, success and if they can go on the road and pull it out. NC State, they played decent on the road. They played well enough to win. They really could have and probably should have lost that game. But this will be another significant road test.
Yeah, it will be, and I think, as you said, it's not going to be easy, but it's not supposed to be easy to get to the NCAA tournament. If it was easy, everybody would play, right? So, I mean, they aren't going to be able to just cruise in by just beating the teams they're supposed to beat. They're going to have to win some significant games, and I think at Arkansas is significant. They come home on Saturday, South Carolina, which is a team that, with Devin Downey, you always have to worry about it. They've got to take care of business. And then they're still going to have to pull off, because I saw their RPI the other day. It's my RPI is higher than Florida's actually. It's ridiculous how bad it is, but that's what happens when you lose the games they've lost and you play some of these really bad, the Americans of the world, whose RPI is in the thousands, I think.
Presbyterian is another one. Yeah, that Florida.
It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt you.
It weighs you down. I mean, it's almost better, not to have them on the schedule than to get the wins. But certainly, obviously, Michigan State and Florida State on the other end does help you a little bit. Didn't really get as much of a boost, though, if you think about it, with their RPI being in 70s as you thought they would. But that's because the Richmond.
The shoes is kind of low. I'm surprised they're in the 50s right now. As good as they're playing.
Yeah,
so
no
that
question.
doesn't help them.
I think this is going to be kind of a tough week too because of that Thursday, Saturday turnaround. Yeah. And, obviously, that makes the Arkansas game that much more critical because then, if you turn around, if you have, a bad game, a blowout at Arkansas, you can turn around, have one day to prepare. And South Carolina might have one of the best players in the league in Devin Downey coming in on Saturday.
He can light it up.
I mean, it's going to be tough, and that's one of the longer plane trips that you're going to be taking in the season, too.
But, Kevin, don't you understand the NCAA, all they care about is the student athlete. It's not about money or TV contracts. It's about the student athlete, which is why Florida's going to have that one-day turnaround and why at the end of the year they play on a Sunday and then turn around and play in the SEC tournament in Nashville probably on Thursday.
Yeah, well.
So
there are about 2 billion reasons for that, right?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That's the television contract.
Don't ever buy into anybody, any coach or anybody saying it's about the student athlete. It's never about the student athlete. It never will be about the student athlete. It's about how much money they can make as a conference and how much they can make as a school. And I just wanted to get that off my chest because I was thinking about that because I'm probably going to the Kentucky game. That's a Sunday game. They're going to come back. Sunday night late, get up Monday, probably take a day off, Tuesday practice, boom, right back up to Nashville on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Student athletes, man, come on.
That Thursday, Saturday turnaround is going to be tough, and they're going to have 3 of them. Now, last week, the teams went 3-1, but Tennessee had to go to overtime to beat Ole Miss in one of those games, and Mississippi State was down bad at home in the second half in Georgia and had to pull it out. So I think it's going to wear on teams during the course of the season.
Well, the league is, I think, better this year, and I think we're seeing that, Kevin. But I do think the league has more. Or I think its bad teams are worse after watching LSU and seeing a little bit of Alabama And that's one thing where you're going to see more SEC teams get in because they're going to pad their records with wins over those bad teams.
Well, and I think Vanderbilt beating South Carolina on the road tells us that Vanderbilt is probably a little bit better, and it doesn't make that Florida loss there look as bad as maybe it did early in the season. I think Vandy's, got some firepower, and I know I voted on the top 25. I had them in there this week, and they almost made it. Ole Miss and Mississippi State right now are in the top 25. So you got 4 teams, Tennessee and Kentucky in the top 10. You got 4 teams in the SEC right now in the top 25 that are legitimate teams.
And Mississippi State probably would be in if they voted right now, or if they had the selection. So it's up to Florida. Hey, the SEC, after last year when they probably weren't going to get 2, and Mississippi State stuns everybody, wins the conference tournament, they get 3 in, they sneak 3 in, do nothing in the tournament. But this year you're looking at a 6 or a 5 bid league right now with the potential for 6 and maybe even 7 if teams get it going. And I think, Kevin, you look at the teams that are lining up to go play in the tournament, and you like what they can offer. I mean, Kentucky's certainly number 1. I think Vanderbilt too. Yeah,
no question. And I think that certainly, can Florida play its way into the mix? I mean, they're going to have to probably get about 9 or 10 SEC wins, and I guess it begins with Arkansas, which, like we said before, isn't going to be easy. And I think that obviously you got to contain Washington inside. Rebounding and interior defense has been a big problem for this team. And I think Marshawn Powell adds an element in the paint. So you got to start with that and maybe try to make some threes. And Rodney Clark is an excellent 3-point shooter as well. So.
And Rodney Clark is not only an excellent 3-point shooter, he's playing great basketball. We saw that kid in here last year. I didn't see that in him. He's made one of those giant leaps. The other night he made like a behind-the-back dribble and then a no-look pass. Where is that coming from?
Yeah.
He's playing really well. So it'll be difficult for Florida. And it's another matchup that's not like, don't take much from the LSU matchup. It's a perfect matchup for Florida. This is not. This is another team. I think Washington's, this is his 7th year playing at Arkansas. It seems like he's been there forever. It's going to be a tough matchup for Florida. South Carolina is more of a matchup that Florida will like in terms of size, but obviously Devin Downey makes things difficult for him.
Yeah, and the Gamecocks losing Dominic Archie, though, really hurts him. He was
and Mike
kind of a senior.
Holmes, he transferred to Cliff Ellis's school.
Yeah,
Coastal Carolina.
College of Charleston? Yeah.
One of those schools, anyway.
No, Coastal Carolina. College of Charleston.
Cliff Ellis is the Terry Bowden of college basketball, going to a small school trying to rebuild his
Muldrow
career.
Is a good inside guy, though. Yeah. He's not bad. He's among the leaders in block shots.
But they can't come at you like a lot of these teams do with 4 or 5 guys. And if you get a guy in foul trouble, you're dead if you're Florida.
Both games, I think, are going to be very up-tempo. Arkansas, they like to run. South Carolina likes to get out on the break. So expect a lot of high scoring in both games, I think.
I'm sure Kenny Cage will be back from one of them, right?
No, he's still waiting on that 3rd back injection pad, and I don't think we're going to be seeing him for a while. Unfortunately, it's
really.
They're really hamstrung. Although I did find it kind of interesting how Billy kept on referring to him only having 7 scholarship players. He forgot about Rod Tishman, who is not seeing the floor but is a scholarship player.
I finally had we had a Rod Tishman sighting against LSU. He got out there for the last minute. I can't tell you if he's any good or terrible. All I know is if you're not playing with a team that doesn't have a lot of depth, then you're not very good.
Yeah, he's had a lot of issues defensively. That's been the main issue. And that's why, McClanahan, the walk-on, has actually been playing ahead of him because he's a little bit better on his feet and so forth. So. Well,
we'll see what happens for Florida this week. They play Arkansas, and because of Kevin's traveling, we're going to do one Hoopscast this week, and then we'll come back next week, see how your traveling's going. We'll hopefully be able to do 2 next week. When we do our first one next week, we'll recap the games against Arkansas and South Carolina.
Should be some fun on Dixon Street, tomorrow night. Maybe
just be
go
careful.
to Willie T's. Yeah, I'll try to be careful.
Yeah. Vietnam. You got to be careful there, man. All right, that's going to do it. Kevin Brockway, Pat Dooley of the Gainesville Sun. So long from the Sunshine State.